So what do you call this part of the Adelaide Hills, Paulie?
This is the Piccadilly Valley. We've just come out of Summertown and we're now heading back towards Stirling.
And it looks like there's a lot of market gardens and cauliflowers and spring onions and that type of thing that grow around here.
Yeah, traditionally this was all market gardens, and just in fairly recent history, maybe the last 20 or 30 years, there's been a few more vineyards planted through the region, especially on the slopes, as you can see. Better for air drainage, and it helps fight disease. And the more fertile ground being at the bottom of the hills can also lead to bigger problems with the grapevines. So
yeah.
You tend to try and keep them on the hillsides.
And some of Australia's best sparkling wine comes from the Piccadilly Valley.
Yeah, absolutely. It's quite a cool region. Good for things like sparkling base, whites, and Pinot Noir maybe at a stretch.
There you go, there's some guys picking cauliflowers or some kind of vegetable right now. And to me it feels it's got a very much a European atmosphere up here, and I'm assuming the settlers up here in this part of the Adelaide Hills are mainly ex-Europeans or expat Europeans?
Yeah, lots of Greeks and Italians, the older market gardeners, so definitely a strong European presence and a strong European feel in this part of the hills.
Yeah, you could be driving around many parts of Europe at the moment, but we're actually in the Adelaide Hills in Australia. G'day, welcome to another episode of Blokes TV. Today we're back in the Adelaide Hills as part of our pre-vintage video series, 2008. And today we're looking at Sauvignon Blanc, which is in the Piccadilly Valley, just below Mount Lofty in the Adelaide Hills. We're probably about 10 kilometres from Adelaide, up over the ridge, and we're in a small grower's vineyard. Okay, so we're just under through this vineyard. So as I said, this fruit we're sourcing for a Sauvignon Blanc under the Maximilian's label. It's a very small grower vineyard, quite well maintained, as you can see, really neat. VSP trellis system, and we can have a look at some of the fruit. Crops are reasonably high this year, and the fruit you can see is sort of at the piece stage size, hasn't started to go through veraison, and that means it hasn't started to accumulate any sugar or soften through the skins. And when it does do that, which it's probably 2 or 3 weeks away from doing that, it'll be around about between 4 and 7 weeks to vintage. I've just been walking through the Sauvignon Blanc vineyard looking at the fruit. We do that at this stage, sort of 6 to 8 weeks out before harvest, and we tend to do it every week just to see how the fruit is developing, see if there's any issues regarding water, insects, fungicide, just get a good idea of where the grapes are at, and anything we need to do or talk to the grower to make sure the quality of the fruit is as high as it possibly can be. And this time of the year, fungal diseases start to become a problem, and we've actually found a little patch of powdery mildew in this vineyard here. So we'll have a bit of a look, and I'll explain to you what powdery mildew is and how we can try and control it. And just to talk a little canopy, I'm not sure whether you'll be able to, that'll come through on the camera, but you can see on the bunches, there you go, there's sort of a bit of a powdery covering on the berries. You can see some of it's gone black, which means that it's actually dead, but the grey and white furry stuff you can see on the berries, that's actually active powdery mildew. It spreads quite quickly. It spreads, obviously for fungus you need a little bit of humidity, but powdery mildew also spreads in overcast days, and at the right, there's certain temperatures where it seems to spread rather quickly. It's reasonably easy to control if you catch it early enough with fungicide sprays. You can minimise it by coming through and doing a bit of leaf plucking, because direct sunlight and heat will also slow it down. But once it takes a good hold of the block or the vineyard, it can be disastrous, but generally you can pick it up quickly enough and knock it on the head. Quite fortunate here, this is only a very small patch of it in a block of this vineyard where we're taking fruit, and the grower will come through and drop this infected fruit on the ground as soon as he can, and that way try and minimise any more infection throughout the vineyard. And just to talk a little bit about water issues in the vineyard and irrigation, and the amount of water vines need to actually produce good quality fruit. My opinion is that the vines need to maintain their health, so they need to be able to operate properly. But you don't want them to be overly vigorous, where you get greater shoot growth compared to the development of the fruit. If that happens, you get you get lots of leaf coverage covering the actual bunches of grapes. The vines are actually putting more energy into the growth of their shoots and their canes than they are the fruit, and you'll find that the fruit can become a little bit light on, overly herbaceous, especially in Sauvignon Blanc. So the aim is to try and find a balance where the vine's healthy but putting enough energy into its fruit. And I actually would prefer to see the vines struggling a little bit but still becoming healthy. And you can see here these vines quite green and healthy, and there's no yellow leaves coming through yet. The canopy's in reasonably good shape, not too dense. There's enough speckled sunlight coming through onto the grapes, and that's what we want to see for Sauvignon Blanc especially.